you know, history merely repeats itself. It's all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. But hold on to that while I bring you two coaches whose mission is to empower women through educating men. It's episode 57, y'all. Creating you is not new. You just gotta dig for it. So grab your pen and paper, pick these gems up, and come get some of this analytical chaos with C. Morgan and King.
What's up? What's up? Welcome. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to you. Welcome to episode 57. Creating you is not new.
No, it's not new. Hey, everybody, I'm C, the chiropractor Morgan, your alignment coach, and hope your holidays were well and blessed.
And I'm King Harrison, the authentic coach. Now let's do what we always do, go to the Father. Father God, we just thank you for this podcast show. We yield ourselves to you. We die to ourselves, our intellect, our way of thinking, our way of speaking, and we submit to your will for this show today. And Father, we thank you that you're going to use this show to empower, to encourage, and to help change the trajectory of the people's lives as we talk about creating and digging deep inside and being who they are authentically called to be and who you're purposed to be. And as we go forth in this show, we just yield it all the way over to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, let's get started. Now, yeah, that's going to echo. On our last show of the year, we have a little sound issue, but it's going to be all right. We're going to work it out. Probably going to turn it down some. We're going to work through it. We're going to get through this show. We really are. We're going to get through this show, and we're going to be able to give you what we need to. But we want to talk about this. Every year, when the new year comes, I hear this phrase, and it bothers me. I don't know, for some reason, all these idioms are starting to bother me. Every year you hear someone say, "New year, new me." No. We're gonna help you with that. It's not a new you. It's still you. It's gonna be you. We're gonna talk about that. But we wanna help you discover it's not a new you. It's always been you. But we want to help you dig deep in creating who you are authentically called to be and what you're authentically purposed to be. So we're gonna dive into that. So this is what it is. Creating you is not new. That's where we're coming from with that. Go ahead, C.
That's gonna drive me crazy.
You just gotta turn it. You gotta turn it down when you talk, and then just like go ahead. That's how you gotta do it. It's how I do it. It's all good. We're gonna still get through the show.
Well, now I agree with you how you're saying the new year, new you. You know, as you begin the things, it's just like the creating you that's always been there.
Go ahead. You good? Go. You good? It's good. Go ahead.
This is gonna be interesting. Interesting for us. I'm gonna see. Well, one thing I guess as we're starting, as we spoke about before, one thing that I saw that I read would make good sense as we're coming into, ending one year and begin another is start a chapter of make room for what? And I thought that was something good that I had seen. And a lot of times what we're talking about before last week, we're talking about making peace of mind in yourself, making room, to love yourself, but actually in creating yourself, just find the self who you are. Because you really don't create a new self. You just create new habits, you create new development, and you create new awareness is what you do. And doing so. And those three things I think are very intricate when you realize, okay, what don't you want to be? Let's not focus on what we don't want to be. We need to extinguish it, but who we want to be as we move through and being a more creative person.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing about it is you want to make sure that you are digging deep inside of who you already are. Not who people think you should be or what you have listened to or what has happened to you in the past. You need to dig into who you really are and understand when you talk about a new year, new me, it's not necessarily you're not new. Everything you was purposed to be was put inside you before the foundation of the earth. When you was born, you came through your mother's womb. Everything inside of you were purpose to do. You came equipped with. What happens is now you have to start discovering that new. You have to start rediscovering who you are. Well, discovering who you are inside and digging deep. If you don't do that, you you're not gonna really fulfill the purpose of who you're supposed to be. So that's the thing that you have to do. That's the thing that you're gonna continually have to do. You're gonna have to make sure you dig deep down inside of who you are and make sure you understand who you are by doing the work. We talked last week about digging in down, peeling like onions and stuff like that. We talked about that. But what we're saying now is you're gonna have to dig deep to discover that you are supposed to be. It's not new. You've always been great. You always been destined to accomplish things that you're supposed to accomplish. You've always been destined to be great. You've always been destined to be the you that you're supposed to be. So what we want to do is take time out to show you how to dig into you so you can make sure you understand that it's not nothing new. It's who you always have been. You're just now discovering it. That's a different word. You're not new. You're just discovering who you are and who you was called to be. So we're gonna dig deep into that so you can understand who you are. Even with our sound issues, we're gonna dig deep into that. Which I don't know what you did, but that fixed it.
Okay. It's gonna keep doing that.
No, it ain't. No, it ain't. I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do. See, this is how y'all know we authentic. This is what
It's
I'm gonna do.
fun.
When you talk, I'm gonna mute my side because I can hear you. That's all we're gonna do. When you talk, I'm gonna mute my side. That way you won't hear me talk. See, you can't hear me.
I hear you now.
Okay, good. See, we are the most authentic people you ever see on the podcast. Cause we having sound issues, but we're gonna still get through this show. We're gonna still get through the show. You can hear me now?
The same way as before.
Okay, keep going. I'm telling you, I got it. I got it on this side. I promise. Go ahead, go ahead. I'm gonna fix it on this side.
And which part?
Just go ahead and speak. You'll be able to still hear me, and you can talk, and it won't have the issue with that. I'm about to mute all this stuff.
I know one interesting thing that as we talk and things, especially when I'm watching on the news, especially like they're having flights and things that are delayed and people saying they can't get home or they can't get to their medicine. To me, that just ties into more of how people take advantage of time and moments. And when, as there has been people, like I said, in the holiday time, when people look around their table, they they enjoy the people that are here, but they start having memories other times the people who aren't at the table anymore to enjoy those memories with, which will bring some sadness, but it can bring some happiness too at the same time. I know with, you're going through the time of you wish they were here at times and you get sad. I mean, some days even with me, even with my dad not being here and in the how the family is, you sit and like, gosh, the family were stronger, things were this way and that way. And you sit and think about that, and you start to dwell and you become sad yourself and you wish things were different. But you can't do it by yourself. But I think one thing when you're trying to fix things and trying to mend relationships and friendships and any of that nature, if you are doing your part, if you put the effort in already and the other side is not giving it, be okay with that long as you did your part to try to mend a relationship. Because, like we said, we can only control ourselves and the actions that we can do and our responses to items and conversations and things like that. So I want you to just accept the relationships that you maybe have tried. Now, if you didn't do your part, you have to own up to that accountability part. If you didn't do your part in it, if you're being the stubborn one, if you're being the one that won't talk, and of that, then we have that hurt and healing, which still holds us back or doing that. But some things, what I like to do going into the new year, I like to basically get everything off my chest. Basically, it's clear everything out. I would say, is it clean your house out? People clean your house out, clean the inside too, you out. Get everything out that you need to get out because it's gonna free you. I do it every year, and it seems like my body knows to do it even after my surgery. Like my body still knows to do it. It's like, okay, you got to clean everything out, get stuff off your plate. Don't take it into a new day. More or less a new year. So that's what I say is a good thing to do, that I do practice. If you can't say it, then write letters. Write letters and mail them. Write letters, drop them off in the mailbox, or get it off your chest so you can at least get out and give yourself that peace of mind. 'Cause to me, that is very, very important, especially when you're hurting or you feel you're not heard when you're having conversations. I think that is the most important part for you as you heal, or things that you don't feel like when you're talking that you can't get a word in, or that person's not listening to you, or it goes into an argument because feeling gets involved in it. And it's just like you start to feel like, why did I even do it? Why did I even try? Because you had to try at least. You're not going to have that regret of not trying or not talking. So if they don't let you speak, write it down. Like I said, mail it, leave it in the mailbox, say here, choose to read it or not. If they don't choose to read it, that's their loss that you try to mend the relationships. I'm seeing that so much around me, relationships and people, when that person, whether that person has passed or that person doesn't have the capacity to speak anymore, mentally, or some type of other sense that you may have. I start hearing, oh, I want this person back, or oh, I wish I would have this, or I wish I would have done that. Well, you have it now. Is where you're going to take what step are you going to take to rectify anything to give you that peace of mind, and be okay that, hey, you tried. It's still going to hurt, but long as that hurt will come to healing, because you actually you faced it. When you don't face it is when things happen. And then you don't want to talk about certain situations or certain things that happen. So how is it ever going to heal, more or less? It's just being swept on the rug. It's not forgotten about. How they say, you can forgive and you can forget. Well, you can't forgive if you never forgave and you never talked about it.
Mm, mm. That's good. I like what you're saying there. Okay, let's go there then. Well, getting things off your chest. We're gonna get stuff off your chest. So, all right, we'll go there then. All right. In creating you, because like I said, creating you is not new, but in creating you do have to release a lot of toxicity that is in your life. And being that we closing out, we got about 3 more days before the year is out, before the year is ended. I still believe, and I just want to make this plain before I go on. If you haven't received what God has promised you in 2022, you still have time, because we got 3 more days. I love the number 3. I promise you I love the number 3. So, but going back to what C said, creating you, rather, not new, creating you do have to give space and release stuff that is not supposed to be inside of you. You have to release all that toxicity out of your life. So if it be a relationship, even if it's something that is personal, if it be a relationship, be your job, it could be anything that has not been productive this year, because this is the last week. You already know what has not been productive. You already know what has not been really good for you at all. We at the end of the year now. So it ain't no need to say, oh, well, maybe let me if it haven't happened, and if that relationship hasn't changed, and if you looking at it and it's the same as it was last year, this time, you should run. You should understand that's something you need to release. In creating you need to understand, you need to take on the identity of who you truly are. Listen, I promise you, the you're supposed to be does not accept things that are negative, does not accept people coming in and disturbing your peace. You have to get to a point to where you understand that your peace is the most valuable thing you can have. I said this last week. Peace is more valuable than money. I will not allow anyone to take my peace. I'm going to stay in my peace. I worked so hard to get here, and I'm going to stay here. Because let me show you something. Somebody else's negativity is not your problem. Now, if you're in a relationship and it's negative and it's toxic, you're allowing it to be your problem. It don't have to be, but you are allowing it to be your problem. And you may need to release yourself from that. You may need to walk away completely from that, because it's very important in creating you that you get a solid foundation, that you understand that the foundation you have to have starts here first. mentally. Mentally, you have to make sure that this conscious mind, this subconscious mind is clear. We all battle with things from our past in our subconscious. However, you can literally train your subconscious to where you are dominating positivity rather than the negativity. Trust me, we all have been through traumatic experiences growing up, childhood. We all have. No one can say they haven't. I'm sorry. If you do, you're lying. Ain't nobody had no perfect, my life was tiptoe to you lie. I'm going to tell you flat out, you're a lie. You are dealing with traumatic things. You have dealt with traumatic things, but until you be honest with yourself, like she said, and expose it and release it, then you're going to stay stuck in that old pattern. And now it's time for you to release it. C made a great point. Write it out. Write a letter. That's a great point. If you can't talk to the person, you don't know the person, or you can't find the person, write a letter to that person and send it to the last known address. But at least you get it off of you. If the person has died, even if they dead, write a letter to the dead person saying, listen, I wish you would have did this. I'm thinking about it right now when C just said it. Because C just said it I'm like, my dad died. I never got a chance to meet him. Maybe I need to write him a letter. I know he dead, but at least it's some stuff I can say that I want to say. I remember I said it when I went to the grave, but it's some more stuff that done came up. Not that I'm trying to say this necromancy and all that stuff. I don't believe in none of that. I'm just saying to get it off of you, because we all have thoughts and we all going. Being honest with yourself, that's good, Andre. Being honest with yourself, time to release it. Man, I like that. That's great. Andre, you hit it dead in the head, boy. You're going to make me go there. Being honest with yourself, I'm about to pass it back to C. Being honest with yourself, and it's time to release it. See, you can have it because Dre about to make me go there.
And it is true being honest with yourself. And as we're going through some of these processes, it's going to take, even when you're trying to talk to a person and you can go and speak to them, and emotions might rise, or people might cry, people might yell. It might take a couple times to get down to the core, because it's like an onion. As you peel it back, you got to peel back the layers when people are ready to be vulnerable. And it does help when you're going through some of that. And then it goes to the point of what can we do? And it's how you're going to react. If that person is yelling, as we know, as you meet them and they're yelling, you yell, it's going to keep escalating as it goes through. So what are you supposed to do when you're going through looking at that? Is try to stay calm. But I mean, you also, what people try to do in conversations at time too is not to get angry. But you have to allow yourself to get angry, but it's a controlled anger, I'll say. When you're in the conversation talking to somebody and they get angry, try not to take it personal. Just let them know, just let it out, because that's just how they're trying to communicate with you, and how you're trying to understand what is going on. Yeah. But then after they get it out, it's your response. Are you going to match it? I mean, because you both have the opportunity to yell at times, but long as you're hearing each other, long as you're not taking it personal, like they're yelling right now, but it's not really at me. It's them just releasing their way they're doing it. And then that's when you can actually come back and say, okay, I see you're frustrated. I see you're mad or you're upset. Okay. You try to understand that part of it, but you don't know. You have to ask some questions. Say, this is what you're saying? They can tell you yes or no. Is it correct what you're saying? And that kind of helps the conversation smooth. But if you might have to take a pause, but you have to come back to that conversation. You have to come back to it. It can't just lay there, because then again, you have another conversation that has began that's just sitting there not being resolved. Right. And it may feel like they said eggshells, going back to it again, like, oh, here we go again. But it's going to take a couple of times so they can release and you can release to try to get on a neutral ground to communicate. And actually comprehend, because that's part of the communication. It's not only communication what people forget, it's the comprehension part of it too. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Because you can say one word and you have a different definition of it than they do. So you have to clarify, what exactly are you saying? Because this is what I take when you say this to me. Then you ask that person, is that what you're saying? They can tell you yes or no. Then you need examples and to be explained a little better.
Right. That's correct. Let me say something. Just speaking of communication, me and my brother just had a conversation. He broke something down to me that made so much sense. I got to go read the book now that he brought it up. He said, men are waffles and women are spaghetti. He said, men compartmentalize in a little box. They don't intertwine everything. Women and their emotions intertwine everything. Everything is intertwined. So when they talk, it all comes together. Men, we compartmentalize. Like he gave an example. He said, you know how like you're going to go do the podcast and you're going to compartmentalize. When you're done with the podcast, you're done with the podcast the next week. You ain't even going to think about the podcast. And I'm not. And so he said, but women, they come, it's all together. It's still thinking about it. If they do a podcast, they still thinking about it until even the next time coming up. And that's so true. So with communication, when it comes to opposite sex, we got to give room, grace for the other person to understand each other. We have to give room for that. We have to give grace for that. We have to be able to be open enough to say, my person don't understand me. Let me allow my person to understand me. We have to do that, especially if you're talking about being in a serious relationship. Now, if you married like me in a covenant, you ain't got no choice. You in a covenant now. So you need to figure out something. You better figure out something. Let me just say it that way. You better figure it out because don't waste nobody else's time like that. Like I got, boy, I'm gonna write another book and I'm gonna expose everything. I'll put a book out now. It's a little tip, boy. Now my next book though, I'm gonna just let you know. So when I do say something and people come to me like, you can't say that, read my book. Yes, I can. I got a t-shirt for that. But this is what you got to understand this. You got to be, if you're with someone and you call yourself loving them and you call yourself wanting to spend the rest of your life with them, the most important thing is communication. I'm sorry, it is. It's the most important thing. I know they had this list of, well, you know, men got this at the top. Man, forget all that. I'm going to tell you like this. Let me be 100 with you. As a man, I'm going to tell you, most important thing is communication for men and women, period. Because if you do not know what your significant other spouse is thinking, or you don't understand their emotions, or you don't understand where they're coming from, or why they think like that, then you're going to have a problem. And this is going to segue into a country boy life question. If you don't understand what background they raised in and how they was raised and what they think normal is, and when in actuality, when they get grown enough, they realize that ain't normal, but because their childhood and how they was raised in their childhood thinking that's normal. So in a childhood, for example, I'd use me. In the childhood, I was raised that, you know, you do something, you get your butt whooped. You get whooped and you get whooped. Like you get whooped like you a slave almost. But that's not, that was normal for me. Not saying my mom was abusive. Let me put that out there. My mom was abusive. But whenever I did something, we got our tail whooped. And we got told you better be quiet. You better not cry. We get our tail whooped and we get told you cannot cry. So you feel pain, but you better not cry. So I grew up thinking I cannot cry when I'm in pain. And I thought that was normal. And like I said, that is not normal. So when I say, but that's trauma though. So you think about life in yourself now. So you're in pain. You can't show emotions. That's trauma. That's what I mean by that, country boy. That's trauma. That's childhood trauma that you say you don't know. And so how do you know that? Is you just look around you start understanding, okay, do a self-inventory. That wasn't normal for me not to show my emotions when I'm in pain. So for me just to allow people to just, well, no, I didn't allow people to walk over me. I was different. But for me to just normal, I'm just going to use the general, for me to allow people, for me to allow people just to do me any kind of way and I'm in pain, I don't say nothing. But I reacted a different way. I was violent, very violent. So when I reacted to pain, since I couldn't cry and be soft about it, I reacted in violent ways, and that wasn't normal. And so a lot of times we think things that are normal from our childhood, we find out when we get older, that's not normal. Now we got to go work through that. That's what I mean. So going back to C point though, if you're in a relationship, I'm going to stay here for a minute. If you're in a relationship and you both were raised from two different backgrounds, me and my wife, two different backgrounds. My wife had both her parents in the house. Great dad. Dad is amazing. Mom is amazing. Me, single parent home. My mom held it down for me and my brother. That's it. So already, how we see and perceive the world is different. So we have to communicate to understand why she sees something the way she sees it and why I see something the way I see it. Not that neither one of us is wrong. We both was just raised different ways. And so it's important, especially if I got to stress this, especially in a relationship with somebody you say you love and want to spend the rest of life with, you got to get an understanding. Is the understanding going to happen overnight? No. No, trust me when I tell you this. No, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. You're going to have to sometimes repeat yourself. You're going to sometimes have to say something that you feel like it's redundant. To you, it's redundant. But to them, they never seen it that way. They never had a perception of that way. They never understood why you would think that way because they didn't never have to experience it. You got to understand with people, when you in a relationship, you got to say y'all come from two different backgrounds and y'all life experiences growing up, it's going to be different. Especially if you start a relationship and you 40 something and you 30 something years old. Think about that. You have 30 something years, 40 something years of what you do growing up doing. Then you come together with somebody on a totally different spectrum. It's going to take some understanding. It's because it took 30, 40 years for them to get that mindset. It's going to take them 30, it's going to take some time for them to understand and compromise. But you got to be patient. Now, if you don't want to do that, man, don't do the relationship. Don't waste each other's time. I mean, see, I'm about to go left. Let's let you talk now. Let's let you
It's
talk.
my turn.
Yeah, I'm about to go left. I feel it. I'm
Well, I
going
wanted to
left.
say somewhere where you were at when it comes to childhood and the families. I want to look at it as when you're in the same, well, with me having multiple siblings
Uh-huh.
right now, and how we all deal with the trauma, how we all deal with feelings. And recently, my one of my siblings got mad at me, and as you know, right now I'm not able to drive. I have to have help doing things. So she got mad at me, and I asked for help, and so she's not helping now. So she got mad. I was like, we'll see if I'll take you. Okay, fine. All right. She got mad. She was in her feelings. But it's a difference of, you have to I've always been the one that you have to take the feelings and emotions out. I stick to facts. What can we do? Okay, we can deal with the emotion later. Okay, I know you're upset and I know you're not feeling good, or this is a hurtful conversation or a conversation that you don't want to have. But we can't keep avoiding the conversation. It's not right that you retaliate on me because I need your help. Now you want to help me because you're mad at me. See, for me, we can have a conversation and be touchy about, but if I'm still supposed to take you somewhere, I'm going to take you. If I said I'm going to do something, I mean, I want your company at the moment. I don't, but I'm still going to keep my word. But I have to let her go through her feelings and calm down. Now, that is not an always easy task because my
No.
siblings, I have a little, there's quite a bit of firecrackers in there that they'll let their emotions go to 100. They don't care what they say, how they say it. They just say it. Don't matter if it's hurtful. And for me and for some other sisters at time, is like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't
Mm.
want to hear the drama. I don't want to hear the negativity right now. But that's just how they deal with their drama, with their emotions. And just give an example of what you deal with. I don't want to deal with the reaction. And it gets uncomfortable at times when they get in their feelings. I'm like, okay, so I gotta sit and be quiet. Sometimes this is how, and I've experienced this with other people too, where they feel they have to sit and be quiet to prevent the conflict. It's still positive conflict. It's not bad conflict when you both are getting off your chest what you both are feeling, especially when some of the grudges, I would say, or some of the healing has not healed from childhood.
Mm.
So it's something that happened that, and this is true, that my sister is mad at me about from over 20 years ago, still haven't healed from it. That grudge is still there. That is
Mm.
not worked through. They are still mad at me about that, still hurt. And the difference when people say they might not, they'll say, I'm not mad. You're right. You're not mad. But as you were saying, that anger acted out in anger, they're hurt. But they
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to transfer that hurt into words, or they don't want to be vulnerable. Like you were saying, King, you have to be vulnerable. You have to have those touchy conversations. Yes, you may cry, but it may be needed because
Mm-hmm.
it's all that has been internalized in you for over 20 years, 15 years, 5 years, how many years, even 1 year. I mean, that taxes on your health, which people don't
Mm-hmm.
understand, like we talked about before. So you having those feelings of discontent, or you mad, or you're still hurt about it, but you're the only person that's holding yourself back with that hurt because, one, you didn't talk about it. Two, you may be afraid to talk about it. And three, you're afraid of the reaction you're gonna get because they'll say, "Oh, that's not true. You're lying," or they'll say, "You're sensitive." They may come back, but that's a deflection in a sense, or more or less, it's a defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it is when someone gets angry or they get upset. They're trying to basically cover themselves, but they sometimes don't even realize they're acting in a defensive mechanism aspect of it because they don't want the family hurt. They don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
the cause of maybe a bad situation or the energy around, but that is needed as sometimes as you got to get stuff out, especially in
Right.
families where some family members are very blunt and will say whatever they want and not care. and
Mm-hmm.
then don't want to say they're wrong on top of it. When
Mm.
they were actually wrong, they don't want to admit it. Then they got to come back to it. And then you
Okay.
got the other family members who were quiet and who were patient listening to the other person, but they never got to say what they needed to say. Or
Mm.
they're trying to wait till it dissolves down into a nice neutral atmosphere and just praying that it doesn't go back up again in turmoil again when you start the conversation again. But like I said, you might have to start this quote unquote chain reaction more than one time. Now, if you're coming to a point where there's an impasse, where you guys aren't getting anywhere and it's yelling and no one is listening, you got to take a break. Or you say, okay, we're going to have to revisit this, but we're going to have to revisit it eventually, what we're going to have to do.
Mm.
And that can be, it's it's tearing at you at times because you don't want to be at conflict with your family. You love your siblings and all that, but it's like, what exactly can I do? And when you exhausted all what you can do and you try to understand that person, but that person is not ready to heal or talk, again, you done all you could do to try to resolve the situation. Now you have to wait for them. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't mean you sit around and be waiting and guilt or wishing you never said anything because you had to say because it was bothering you, it was tearing you up inside. And like
Mm-hmm.
we said before, that person could be like, okay, I got it off my chest. I can have peace right now. I'm okay. But it's not fair to yourself of keeping things in and being afraid to talk about it because you don't want to make hurt somebody's quote unquote feelings.
Right.
The feelings can get hurt, but it's your hurt too. So you're being selfish with yourself by not being allow yourself to let things out.
Right.
You're actually killing yourself in a sense of you're making yourself numb. You're causing, like we said again, stress on your body. Because if you notice at times when you're very worrisome,
Mm-hmm.
when you go through the part of depression, if you go into part of anger,
Mm-hmm.
any of that is going to make your body feel hurtful. It's going to, like, you feel more pain, kind of like when you go out in a cold. Like for me at times going out in a cold, it is very painful. That cold is very painful. But some of that, if I get angry at times, if I get upset, my body hurts even more because of that emotion. I'm feeding it. Now when I relax, I calm down, or I can actually speak and say what I'm saying right now, then actually my body does feel more relaxed. And it is a reaction that people don't even realize that they're doing to themselves. And like I said before, just imagine if there's times where you want to talk to your brother, where you want to talk to your sister, and you feel they don't listen. Well, that's their fault for not listening. But if you're in an environment where you have if they genuinely ask you, what do you think? And you say, I don't know, you had the door right there to say what you feel when they actually
Correct.
asked you that. You
Right.
can't close up and refuse to speak because you're afraid of what the
Response.
the feelings are right now in the room, and you don't want to be vulnerable at the moment. You have to speak. You have to say what actually is going on with you when they ask you, especially in the moments.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Oh, I don't know. Whatever you think. Okay, you're not giving yourself. You're losing your voice. You're taking your voice from yourself. You have to use the voice and the power that you were given to you. I'm not saying go crazy. Like we said, different people deal with grief differently. People deal with anger and sadness differently, and it comes out in their behaviors. But you have to allow yourself to go through those things. You
Mm.
have to be able to keep that voice because, like I said, when you lose your voice, you start to get depressed.
Mm.
Your self-worth, your self-love actually goes away for
Yes.
yourself. You start changing and not even realizing, and then people are telling you're changing and you feel they're attacking you when they're not attacking you. They're actually, their assertiveness or directness is saying, instead of saying, hey, I love you, I miss you, they're going to say, why don't you come around anymore? Why don't you call me? Instead of just saying, hey, I miss you, can you call me sometimes? Because they don't want to look weak, they don't want to feel vulnerable. But those are the things in the communication that you have to say. Say what you really are feeling and what you really mean in the aspect. Don't be grouchy, like I gave the example of saying, oh, you don't call me anymore. You don't care about me. I miss you. I would appreciate if you call me more. I would really like to hear from you. And some people, that is too hard for them to say because they don't want to look weak and vulnerable. But that's what you really are feeling. I mean, you probably do feel you should call me more, but you're deflecting because you actually are missing them. But you never mentioned you miss them, but you're pointing out what they're not doing. Accept what you're not doing when we say, just like Andre was saying, being honest with yourself. Be honest with that. It will get you a lot more further in a conversation if you're saying what you feel instead of saying you feel this, you feel that. I feel that you're feeling this way. They can confirm or deny. Well, not deny. They can just explain yes or no. they are or they are not feeling that way, or what they are or not saying. But you have to be bold to say, this is what I'm thinking. Your thinking is not always wrong, especially if it's not clarified or you're not understanding.
Yeah.
And you may agree to disagree. You may totally not agree at all, but at least you talked about it. At least it's out there. It's out in the open, where before it wasn't in the open and it was just closed off. And being closed off for yourself and for everyone else, it's you're being the one being punished because you're not releasing, as we said, yourself. You're not being the you who you loved come to love. Just like some things that you love to do at one point in time anymore, and you can't do it anymore. Doesn't it feel great to be able to do it? It's the same thing when you voice what you're feeling and what you're thinking. That weight is released. And the biggest thing that I see sometimes that people do where they're afraid or they do not have the conversation, because you are in your mind replaying how you think that the conversation is going to go when it actually may not even go that way.
True.
That fear of what they may say, because maybe they've grown in themselves in self-development. Maybe they're not that same person that you feel they are in that way, especially if your interaction is not a lot with them anymore because you're distant in that aspect of it. Give them a chance. Give them that option, because maybe like they have grown that you haven't been around them. But again, give each other that chance to talk. But again, you have to keep the power in your voice. You have to keep that self-love and your self-worth. It's okay if you look weak. It's okay if they really know how you feel. You have to let that wall down at times. If you really care for that person and you really care for that relationship and for yourself, you have to release and let it go. Hey, I put it out there. And sometimes you don't even put it out there the right way. Like I said, you can be screaming and yelling, but that's them going through their hurt at the same time, their anger, how they're processing, and they might not even know how to process or even how to go about of getting it out in a constructive manner where it's not looking like they're attacked. But when you're having that conversation, hey, I may react to some things that might be a trigger that I don't even know it's a trigger. But when you see yourself react to it and you reflect back on it, man, why did I act that way? Why did that hurt so bad? Or why did that make me so angry? And then you figure out what it was. And it's not, and sometimes it may not be as apparent as you think. It may not be easily to identify. It may take a couple conversations. It may take a couple things to dig and say, you know what? This actually was the root of it. You know, when it comes to emotions, like you're saying, you couldn't show emotion. A lot of times I was the peacekeeper, the mediator. So it didn't matter what I thought or what I felt. I had to keep the peace and say, hey, with the sisters, you did this wrong. You did this wrong. This is what we're going to do going forward. It didn't matter what I thought. In fact, just keeping the peace. And that actually was some growing part of mine, me being the older sister also, but it had to take some growing with me. I had to let stuff out. I had to say, hey, this is what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. So I'm telling you guys the same thing that I've had to do, and I still continually have to do. There's things that I'm working through that I have to talk about and say, hey, you know what? This really does hurt. I don't like saying I'm hurt. I really don't like saying I'm hurt, but it's the truth. It does hurt. Or this made me feel this type of way. Because when you're looking at of how, let's say, how resilient you feel you used to be and strong, you may be feeling you're not that strong person anymore. But it takes a stronger person to admit they're wrong, to admit that they're hurting, and to admit that there's some things that I might say that might hurt your feelings, but this is how it came across me. Because granted, when you have a conversation with people and you don't say how you felt, what is a common thing they say? Well, why didn't you tell me? And what are you going to say? You know, but they're asking you, why didn't you tell me? I didn't tell you because you are hurting yourself. You know, I was hurt. But for me, it's like when I'm hurt, I don't like to, especially if I get angry with it, I don't like to come across angry and yelling. I like to analyze, obviously, being in alignment, analyze the situation and be like, okay, let me look at the facts of it, but let me see how I can intertwine my emotion with it. What was I feeling? What am I not feeling priority right now? Am I not feeling loved right now? Am I just mad because I don't have that friendship I used to have anymore? Or do I feel you're doing more for me than somebody else? You know, you have to identify, because especially in big families, it does come across, or you love this person more because you showed it this way by A, B, C, and D. This, and it don't have to be a big family. It could just be a family, period. You know, where they say parents have their favorites, their kids or grandkids, or, you know, that phrase is sense. Me working with people and be around people, that is said quite often. But the biggest thing is releasing, like we said, don't be afraid to release, because it might not be the outcome, but when you get it out, and maybe, as they say, as everything falls into place, that person can realize and aware of how they made you feel. But remember, though, you always control how you're feeling. But if you don't speak on it, you can't get mad at the other person for not even knowing how you felt or what that action did. And another big thing is how we say it's not always apparent what you see with your eyes. Just because I see you doing it does not mean that it actually happened that way, because you might not know why that person did that. They can be doing it to protect you. At times, maybe they feel you're not at a place where you can handle it. But the opposite side of that is you take that person's choice away and how they react, because you're thinking how they're going to react. You may know that person. If you know that person, that's fine in a sense, but always give them that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And having that conversation too. I didn't have the conversation because you always get mad, or you always do this, or you always do that. Okay, you're telling me what I always do. How can we find a solution? Can we find a neutral ground that we can talk? Or what can we do if it starts getting, emotions start flaring up? What would you, and the question, what a lot of times I don't hear that's asked in conversations and when speaking with people and being a mediator is, what would make you happy, or what would you like have seen to be done, or what would you have liked to have be said? So for future, when this comes up again in conversation, they can try to implement and practice what will works for you and works for me. It works on both sides, but you have to ask that person, what would you like have done and what you have like seen.
Right. That's great, see. That is great. Let me tell you something. This I wanna deal with this because you cover that everything on that part that we need to cover. I want to go here and listen. It's time to get real. When is it gonna be enough is enough as far as this, like she said, about expressing yourself, about expressing feelings, about you scared, you be vulnerable, you're scared that, but being vulnerable, not being vulnerable, let's say this, not being vulnerable has got you a place where you are a shell of yourself, where you have become hurt in many ways because you didn't want to be vulnerable or you didn't want to have conflict. These have got you in the bondage of a shell of yourself because you're not yourself. You're not who you're supposed to be. You're not. What you are is you are a person that is straight up hurting. You in a place of where you don't feel like you should be able to do anything anymore. You don't feel like you should be able to speak out anymore. You feel like you cannot do the stuff you should do. And that's not where you want to be. And that's all come from a place of you being not vulnerable and afraid of conflict. Listen, we going to create you. It's not nothing new. It's always been inside of you. But what has happened, life has caused that you're supposed to be to become non-existent. So I get it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking when they say new you, new year. I'm not knocking that. I get that part. I get why you would say it's new, because you have become such a shell of yourself. You actually forgot that it was you. So I get it, but I'm trying to tell you that it ain't new though. It's you always been a bold person. You've always been that person that is successful. You always been that person that is supposed to have multiple business. You always been that person, but you have allowed life to suffocate the you was always destined to be. So what we're saying right now is it's time out for you to keep going this way. Let's start today, right now. I told y'all I ain't on this whole New Year stuff. It's right now for me. Right now. Let's start right now getting to a point to where you saying, you know what? If I have to have a conflict, if I have to be vulnerable, if I have to go through whatever it is I have to go through, it may be painful, it may be traumatic, but if it's going to get me back to who I am and make me be strong enough to be my authentic self, then so be it. I'm going to do it. Because I know you're tired of being stuck in the same situation over and over and seeing no progress. Listen, I was there when I used to blame everybody but me. It was not everybody's fault. It was my fault. Because some things was lack of discipline. Some things were just lack of just preparation. Some stuff was like, you couldn't talk to people that way. You didn't have no tact. You didn't have no compassion. But bottom line is, it was all on me. I had to figure out me. What works for me. If relationships didn't work for me, I had to be bold enough to walk away from it. I had to be bold enough to understand that, hey, I cannot be in this relationship. I had to be that person. And so now, what we're saying is this. Today, right now, be creative enough to understand that how you've been doing it, not working. Have a real conversation with yourself. Do a real inventory check with yourself. You done played and you done pretended all year. You have. You've been pretending all year. And it ain't got you nowhere. Let's have a real conversation with yourself. And start changing the things that you know need to be changed. Let me tell you something. I'm not saying be insensitive to people's feelings or don't regard their feelings. However, if it's causing you to be in bondage, I'm gonna need you to just say, you know what? Forget your feelings. I got to get this off my chest because I'm not gonna keep holding this no more. Because I told y'all, we've been saying all throughout the year that a lot of stuff that you hold in can cause diseases, and it's proven. Studies have proven that. So you have to release this stuff. You can't hold it in. I let stuff rip. That's why authentic. She is analytical. She's I ain't thinking about it. I let it rip. And now I done got tactful though. I got a little bit more compassion with it now, But at the end of the day, I'm not having no ulcers for nobody. I'm not having no diseases for nobody. If you say something slick outside your mouth and I supposed you say, oh, the Lord forgive you. And no. I'm going to let you know. And then Lord, I'm going to ask the Lord forgive me. Because if it come out and hurt your feelings or, make you feel a certain type of way, you can tell me, but I'm asking God to forgive me. But you're not going to make me be in bondage to how you make me feel if you made me feel a certain type of way. I'm going to keep my peace. I told y'all that. I'm going to keep my peace no matter what. And how I keep my peace, I don't hold on to things when people say something slick out their mouth and hurt and say something side. And I just hold on to, oh my God, wonder why they said that to me. Am I really... Do I not know how to make things happen? Do I not? Oh my God. No, I'm not doing that. I know who I am in God. So I'm not going to let nobody tell me who I ain't. This ain't going to happen. But you got to get to that point because it's detrimental to who? Other people in your life. Last week I talked about kids. I told y'all it's about lives no matter what you do. You becoming your authentic self, creating the you that is authentic, is saving somebody's life. And if you got to start with a checklist, right? I'm going to share this with you. This is what I want you to do. And I'm going to give it to see. I want you to make a list. I want you to take time out right now, do an inventory, make a list. Make a list of every single thing that has happened in your life that was negative. And why did it happen? How did it make you feel? And who did it? Then on the other side, I want you to make a list of all the time that you laughed and you felt good about yourself and you did. Compare your list and choose which list you prefer to have now, not next year, now. Because I promise you, when you check out the negative things and what caused it, and you start looking and saying, wait a minute, ooh, I ain't got to really deal with that person like that. You know what? Oh, they've been negative in my life this whole year. They ain't had nothing positive. They ain't poured nothing in my life. You check them out. You ain't got to deal with it. Listen, the Bible say love everyone. The Bible say love everyone. Didn't say you had to like them. It say you had to love them, though. You ain't got to like them. There's a lot of people I do not like, but I love them, though. I love everybody. But there's a lot of people I don't like, and I would tell them, I don't like you, but I love you. It just is what it is. Y'all got to get to a point to y'all cannot listen. We so whatever. We're so sensitive. It just don't make no sense to me no more. But we sensitive. This is the sad part. You're sensitive when it comes to you. But when it comes to me, you're not sensitive at all, and I have to suffer. No, I'm telling you, you don't. Not now, not ever. You got to get this. You don't have to suffer at all. Because I'm telling you, I told you I was going to go left. I'm just trying to tell you. You ready now? Go ahead. Let's come on back. Bring them back to the little melancholy stuff you was talking. Because
It's not melancholy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
That stuff.
I mean, one thing you said when you're saying you let it rip, you have people who, I think, given that grace of people just accepting whatever comes out, because it makes it harder when you sit and think about what I say, how it's going to affect the other person. Yeah, sometimes you do, like you said, you do have to be tactful. Yes, you do at times.
Yeah, at
It
times.
comes in different when you are intentionally and maliciously trying to tear somebody up. That's totally different when you're saying what you want to say. If you just want to get it out,
Let it rip.
but there's no need for name calling.
Nah.
There's no need of that kind of stuff when you're just trying to talk and communicate, because that is just derogatory and you're trying to tear that person down. There's a different way when letting stuff rip. You may feel that way, but it's still not the right way to have somebody say they feel that way, in that sense of being derogatory and cutting someone down. Because if you do that, then you both are going to be you're going to be in defense mode. So you're going to try to defend you, and then you're not going to get anywhere when you're getting that way.
Let me give an example.
Let
me give an example. This is what I'm saying. When I say do not allow people, and I say let it rip, I'm gonna give you an example. So we'll make it real plain. I love making stuff plain. This is the example right here. You have people in your life right now. This is real, and it's an example at the same time. You have people in your life right now that's telling you stuff that you knew you heard God tell you to do. Say you're not qualified to do that, or they'll say stuff to you like, well, are you capable of doing that? Well, you haven't never did that before. Or they'll say stuff, anything to discourage whatever you see in your brain that God had a private conversation with you about. You'll share that. And you'll have people tell you that God didn't tell you that. Or you'll have people say you're not qualified for that. That's what I'm talking about. Let me show you something. That's when you let it rip. Like when people tell me what God said to me, I say it was a private call, not a conference call. So how can you tell me what God said to me in a personal call? You're not God and you're not me. And then how in the world do you even know me? You only seen me probably this year 3 hours total. So you haven't experienced my life for 365 days. So you don't know what I've been preparing for. You don't know what I was in the closet doing when there was nobody looking. You don't know how many tears I have shed over this particular thing that God said, I need you to go now, minister that. That's what I'm saying when I say let it rip. Do not let people tell you you cannot do something that God has called you to do. It was a private call, not a conference call. Now, you may have people come in your life that will confirm what God has said, but I promise you, and I guarantee you, you're going to have more people coming to say what God didn't say than you're going to have more people to come to say what God did say. So what I'm saying is when you let it rip, do not allow nobody to talk you out of what God has called you to do. Do not allow nobody to tell you that you are not capable of doing what God has called you to do. Do not allow anybody no more this year or the next year coming to stop you from being what you're called and purposed to do. It is time out for you accepting this small mentality that people are trying to put on you. You are not small-minded. God has gave you a great-minded. Stop letting small-minded chicken coop people tell you what you cannot do because they want to stay in the chicken coop and they want to keep a small mind. That's what I'm saying when I say let it rip. That's an example of when I say let it rip.
Good example. That's an example of when you're saying the small-minded people. A lot of times it's their fear they're imprinting on you, or they're wishing that they could have done it and what you're doing. They had the courage to do what you're doing. So basically, they keep you in a comfort zone with them at times. When we talk about the different cousins that we talk about jealous and envy. So and it happens too in childhood too with parents and kids. As they say, the parents are living through the kids, or they want the kids to do what they wish they could have done when the child has no interest at all in doing it. And the other thing too, when it comes to children, Look at their behavior and accept it. It may be a behavior that you might not like at all, but accept that they are doing it, not ignore it. Because when you ignore it, that behavior is just going to get in more whirlwind or out of control.
Mm-hmm.
When going with that. And I agree with saying not accept, because we get so intertwined of what other people think of us instead
Mm-hmm.
of, like you're saying, you're able to say you don't care what people think. You're strong enough, and what you're saying is, I don't care what you think about me. You can think what you want, but that's not a priority. I know who I am, my self-worth is. And that's where we have to get back to, of understanding our power. We know who we are. You can have your opinion, but your opinion does not matter to me, because your opinion is not paying my bills. Your opinion is not helping me on my journey of accomplishing any ambition or achievement and goals that I may have. If you're contributing in a negative manner, then you don't need to be on the path or journey I'm walking on right now. I can love you like you said, but I'm gonna love you from a distance right now. But I'm gonna have to stay strong in a sense of, I know who I am, where I want to be. And yeah, we can listen to those opinions. Now, always remember where that advice or opinion is coming from. What type of person is that? Are they genuinely, because they can come across, an example you gave was, are you sure you're capable of doing that? Now, if it's someone that you know, they're genuinely just asking the question, they're saying, hey, why do you think you can do that? They're not being malicious about that question to you. Now, if it's someone who's always negative, you're going to take it that way, because there it is coming off discouraging. But it always, the source of the piece of the information, the person talking to you, where's, understand your source. If that source generally loves you and wants to see you do well, okay, you can take it. It's different someone who's always trying to put you down in the examples that you gave. You're not capable of it. Why you ever want to do that? That's just a crazy idea. Isn't that hard? Wouldn't that be scary to do? Just because that person has never been done doesn't mean it's wrong to ever try to attempt to do it. That's how we got inventions. Like how
Mm-hmm.
many times it took to develop or invent electricity. Like how many times it took to, develop an airplane, to fly. It took multiple times, multiple people sometimes too with the inventions. They
Right.
got ostracized at times. They got, called crazy. What their thinking is. You may be called that, but don't take it personal. Like you said, if that's what you're called and you feel your purpose is to do, all you can do is attempt it. If you don't attempt something, put yourself out there in the environment of uncomfortability that we speak about often, your uncomfortable zone. Put yourself out there to have conversations that you really don't feel like having emotionally, or what you're really to reveal in your part in doing in the, which, how you say, the conflict,
Mm.
which people look at conflict all the time is bad when it's not. You have positive conflict to move
Yes.
things. Put yourself out there. If you keep yourself, like you said, in bondage, in a trap, in a box, you are just doing that. You are
Mm.
preventing yourself to be yourself. And actually, you're preventing yourself from the person that you once loved and cared for. You're keeping them out the box,
Mm.
because that's the person you're trying to long to be, but you're preventing yourself to do that. And the list that you mentioned of the negative and the positive things, which list you want to be, some of those things in that negative list or what you hurt, those are some of the conversations that you need to be having to heal from, to move to that right side as positive, because it's only the way how you view it. Like we said in the experiences, you can take a negative activity or a negative experience, but you make that, and that experience comes up again, because believe me, those times in your life will come again. Like, gosh, this is like deja vu, this happened to me before.
Right.
But if you don't change that outcome and make it a positive one, okay, just like, okay, I do not like heights. I am afraid of heights. I am completely afraid. But I did go zip lining, and those are some heights.
Ooh.
So now I attribute to having fun zip lining with being afraid of heights. I'm not scared in that sense. So you change it. You change that memory. Oh, that was fun zip lining. Let's go do it again. Even though it's way up high, I don't like to be, but I changed that memory. I added something positive. And the more you add to it, and I'm not saying not every experience is going to be this, but if you add just pieces at a time of positivity or changing that outcome, how you felt about it, you will heal, and you will begin to have a different feeling and outcome when that happens again. Because I'm telling you, when you don't resolve stuff and you're healing, you are put in that same situation again with a different person. As we said before last week, you take it from one relationship to the other, you take it from one friendship to the next friendship, one job to the next job. So you keep not facing stuff, it's going to keep following you until you face it. You open up and just be that transparent, vulnerable person to face it. So when creating you, that you was already there, create the love you that you once want, that high self-worth, that proud of you. Give yourself that grace of maybe some things we did that we're not proud of. And we're gonna do some future stuff we're not gonna be proud of. We can't see it, but I'm sure we're gonna go through it. We're gonna we're
True.
gonna go through. We're gonna have to give ourselves that grace.
Right.
Dang, I shouldn't have did that. That was so foolish of me to do. But you're taking like a grain of salt. All right, I know not to do it again. So this time I'm gonna do it this way. Well, I'm gonna ask for help. Asking for help is not bad. A lot of
No.
people do not
Right.
like to ask for help. Yes, an example I said, yep, I asked for help and I was like, you know what? I didn't ask you for help anymore. That was my that's my feeling. That was my feeling. But we go through that. And I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
feel that. I'm gonna have to work through that. Yeah, I have to say, yeah, she was mad at the time. Just leave her be. That's how she is. But I'm gonna let her know, hey, this is how it felt. I wasn't trying to attack you. I was just trying to talk to you because to me, I'm not attacking. But in her view, I was attacking. And that's
Right.
how some of our conversations
Perception.
go.
Right.
When you
Right.
really truly are not attacking at all, you're just speaking. But they're in their emotion. Their feelings are there in front of you. So you have to acknowledge and understand on both sides of that spectrum and the balance that when you're trying to move forward, it might feel like you're going backwards sometimes, but sometimes you have to go back to move forward even more steps so you're not staying in the same spot.
Right. And I like what Andre said, the country boy. I tell people to start from the age of about 4 and start recalling the stories of your life and write down what you remember seeing. Small things could be the biggest factors of trauma. That is so true, Andre. Man, I'm so glad. Which is another one of our wonderful coaches in our association. That's why we told y'all last week. We have it all in our circle to help you. And matter of fact, it's on that. Like we say this all the time. Reach out to us and contact us. Okay, here go the information right here. There go all our information. You can reach out to one of them and you can call that number. And you call that number, you get one of us because we are serious about helping you. We are. We're serious about it. We're not playing no games with it now. We serious. And as you can see, we're very passionate about it and we ain't gonna play with you. We're gonna get it done. So that's the information. You can reach out to us. And so that's something I want to close with that. But Andre, that's very powerful. Write the list down. That I'm telling y'all, Andre just said write a list down. I was telling you it's something about writing. She said it earlier about writing a letter. It's something about writing. I do not know, and I will research it later and get back with you. But it's something about writing things out that is powerful, and it's like a powerful release. It's the most powerful release you can ever have when you write things out, actually. So again, write things out in creating you. Write it out. And so listen, that we're gonna close out. We're gonna let C close it out with her famous words of wisdom, and then we're gonna hit this benediction. And then I want y'all to have a very prosperous New Year's. As you celebrate, be safe. But most importantly, remember, if you made it to the new year and you here and you counting down, that means God kept you a whole year and you're here. So do not take that for granted. Do not say, okay, you may not have everything you want. You may not have what you need. But the fact that you have breath in your body, that means you still have the opportunity to get to that level that you want to be at. And so do not take that for granted. That's all I got to say. But see, go ahead and close them out. We're going to have to let the thing ring. But go ahead and close them out.
Well, when you're talking about the in writing, what writing does, it allows the person to get everything out without interruption. They're in, especially when they get in the zone of actually finally releasing and actually going back. When you write everything out and you go back and reread it, you think, gosh, did I really say all that? Did I really have all that pent up in me, especially when you get in the zone writing out? So that's what aspect of writing does allow, especially when you're having a conversation and you feel you're not heard at times, or you're in a conversation and then you get interrupted with something and then you lose your thought, what you're saying, because you're actually going to let more out. That writing gives you that blank canvas to get everything out, so without being interrupted, and then you can go back and reread it, and if it triggers something else or reminds you of something else, you can write more to that. So that's one aspect of writing can do for you. And it's just like journaling. And the biggest thing, I went through and I did a thing of, we talk about words, for the next year, and it's like something, the words that you see. For me, it was more of like breakthrough. Mine was breakthrough, miracle, communication was one, and alignment. And those are some things that I know I'm going to work on. So those are my goals with some words. But as we said, please free yourself of this year, because it's going to be the past again. The past can't be in your present. You won't see your future. And an aspect of it, just release it for yourself and be that creative you that you loved. If you're not loving it now, bring it back, because you have that choice and that ability to do so. It's never too late.
Great. And with that said, if all hearts and minds are satisfied, the benediction. Let's go to the Father. Father, I thank you right now for every single person that watched this podcast tonight. Father, I pray Psalms 91 over their life. I pray that no evil shall befall them. No plague shall come to their dwelling, that 1,000 may fall at their side, 10,000 at their right, but only with their eyes would they witness destruction. I thank you for the angels encamped around about them. And I thank you most importantly that they abide under the shadow of your wing. Father, I thank you that no weapon formed against them will prosper. Every tongue that rises up against them shall fail. And Father, I plead the blood of Jesus over them right now. And Father, we thank you for this time that you have set aside for us to empower the people and to educate the people, Father, and that they will be even better after hearing this podcast, and that their life will be in a true trajectory of their authentic self. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.